Okay, so have you ever, like, just imagine you're having coffee or maybe, like, sharing a piece of pie with someone,
Hmm.
and they seem super normal, you know,
Hmm.
pleasant even. And then, like, years later, bam, you see their face plastered all over the news.
Oh,
It's
no.
not just, like, some random person anymore,
Right. Yeah.
like a wanted murderer.
Whoa.
That thought, it's chilling.
It really is. Yeah. To think that you actually, like, met this person.
Yeah. That's what we're going to be talking about today in this deep dive. We're looking at, like, that feeling of, oh my gosh, I shared a space with this person.
It's a truly unsettling feeling for sure. The thought that evil can be lurking right there in plain sight. And we're looking at a collection of stories from the Morbid podcast,
Oh, yeah, more.
and they're all about this theme of that time I met a murderer.
So we're going to hear stories from, like, way back, like, the 1960s,
Wow.
from college campuses to cities, and even, like, right here in our own backyard.
Oh, interesting. I'm already hooked.
It's a wild ride.
Oh, I bet.
You'll feel shock, you'll feel disbelief, and maybe even, like, a little dark humor along the
Yeah, I
way.
love a little bit of dark humor.
So, our first story takes us back to the 1960s with Meredith and her mom.
Okay.
Her mom was a freshman at Oregon State University back then. Like, think about it, staying up late, listening to the radio.
Cigarettes.
Yeah, that classic college experience,
Yeah.
a little bit of rebellion,
Hmm.
late nights. So one night, Meredith's mom calls into this local radio station
Okay.
and ends up chatting with the engineer. His name was Jerry.
Oh.
And get this, they actually hit it off and they go on like a couple of dates.
Whoa.
Even a drive to the coast.
Now, back then, picture those rural highways.
Oh, yeah.
Especially back then, no cell phones or anything like that. Isolated, bit eerie.
Oh, absolutely. Like you're really out there.
Mm-hmm.
And then, fast forward a few years, Meredith's mom sees Jerry's face plastered all over the news.
Oh, no.
He'd been captured as a serial killer.
Wow.
Jerome Brudos.
It's just crazy to think that you could share a meal, have a conversation with someone, even laugh with them.
Right.
And then they're capable of such awful things.
It just makes you question everything. Like,
Yeah.
what could I have missed? What was off? Meredith says her mom actually described Jerry as soft and, like, homely.
Okay.
Not really her type at all.
Interesting. Just goes to show these people can really blend in.
Yeah, they could be charming.
Mm-hmm.
They could be really charming, and you'd never suspect a thing.
Never suspect a thing. Yeah.
Meredith also brings up something that's super important to think about. The guilt and shame that society puts on victims.
Oh, yeah.
Even the ones who weren't, like, directly involved in the crimes.
Right.
This pressure that you should have known.
That you should have seen it.
You should have seen the signs.
Yeah.
It's so messed up. Like, why are we putting this on the victims?
It is. It's like we misplace the blame, you know? Instead of holding the perpetrator responsible, we're scrutinizing the victim's every move. It's crucial to remember the blame lies solely with the person who committed the crime, nobody else.
Exactly. 100%. Okay, now let's hear Quinn's story. It's about her grandmother. Back in the 1960s, she was a grad student in Boston. Imagine this. Friday night, she's coming back to her apartment after a long week.
Yeah.
And she's in Back Bay. As she's entering her building, a guy tries to follow her in.
Oh, gosh. That's scary. Like a classic move, right? They try to get into your safe space.
Yeah, and she immediately, like, felt that something wasn't right.
Your boundaries are crossed. Alarm bells go off.
And she was a strong woman.
Good for her.
Like, she was no nonsense. She confronted him immediately.
Love that.
She was like, what are you doing? Who are you? Basically told him to get lost.
Yeah, trusting your gut.
Yeah.
Asserting yourself.
Yeah, that's so important. So she was strong, and she stood her ground.
Yeah.
And sadly, that wasn't her last encounter with this guy.
Oh, no.
Really? So shortly after, she moves back to Connecticut, starts her career, and later gets this devastating news. Her friend's roommate in that same apartment building had been murdered,
Oh, my gosh.
strangled with nylons.
That's a chilling detail. And wasn't that a signature of the Boston Strangler?
Yeah, at that time, he was terrorizing the city. So years later, when the Boston Strangler, Albert DeSalvo, was finally caught,
Yeah.
Quinn's grandmother, she recognized him instantly.
It was the same guy.
The same guy from her apartment building.
Which just makes you wonder, what if she hadn't stood up to him?
Right. It could have been her. It just really shows how these crimes, they have this ripple effect. The fear, the trauma, it goes way beyond just the victims themselves. It touches everyone around them.
Absolutely. It just impacts the entire community. That feeling of safety is shattered.
Yeah, and you're never quite the same. All right. Are you ready for our next story? This one is a wild ride.
Okay, bring it on. I'm ready.
Okay. It comes from a music teacher in Missouri. It all starts with a Taco Bell name tag and a little bit of teenage rebellion.
Okay, a Taco Bell name tag. I'm already intrigued. That's a unique combination.
I know, right? So our storyteller, she was a good student. Straight A's, first chair saxophone, but also had a bit of a wild streak.
Okay, I can see that. You know, that push and pull of fitting in but wanting to find your own way. It's a classic teenage struggle.
Exactly. Like, she was running with a bit of a sketchy crowd, smoking behind her parents' backs, just classic teenager stuff.
Ah, the teenage years
Yeah.
who didn't have their moments.
Right. And one of the guys in this crowd, he worked at Taco Bell. And for whatever reason, he wore his name tag to school.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's a bold choice. I definitely wouldn't have been brave enough to do that. A Taco Bell name tag to school.
It's a choice,
Yeah.
but it gets weirder. This guy, we'll call him Taco Bell name tag guy.
Okay.
He starts flirting with her, and, she kind of plays along, but
Oh, those teenage dynamics, right. Figuring out attraction, navigating those first romantic encounters. It can be super awkward.
it can. And it's high school, so, shenanigans.
Shenanigans.
So long story short, she ends up with his Taco Bell name tag pinned to her backpack.
Okay.
And for some reason, it just stays there for like the rest of high school.
The things we hold on to from those days,
Yeah.
right? Those little tokens for a time when everything felt so new and exciting.
Right. It's like a little time capsule. And then a year later, she's off at college, living her life, gets a call from her mom. Remember Taco Bell name tag guy?
Oh, I have a bad feeling about this.
Yeah. Turns out he and this couple he was with broke into an older gentleman's house to rob him.
Oh, no.
And they thought the house was empty.
Oh.
But the man was home,
Oh, gosh.
and Taco Bell name tag guy ended up stabbing him to death.
Wow. That escalated quickly. It just goes to show how quickly things can spiral. 1 minute you're a teenager with a name tag, the next you're caught in a web of violence.
Yeah. Yeah. And here's the kicker. Years later, she's rummaging through her parents' attic and stumbles upon that old backpack with the name tag still attached.
Yeah. It's almost like that name tag represents something darker, something that was always there beneath the surface.
I know. It really makes you think about how we only see a tiny part of the people we meet.
Yeah, we build these narratives in our heads based on limited information.
And then, bam, the truth comes out. It's like shattered.
Yeah, totally shattered, like looking through a cracked lens.
It's a lot to process.
It is, definitely.
And speaking of shattered narratives, our next story comes from Hillary. This one is a wild ride.
Oh, okay. I'm all ears.
It's got a creepy hotel guest, a sting operation,
Yeah.
a whole lot of lingerie. Buckle up.
Okay, you've got my attention. Lingerie and a sting operation. Let's hear it.
So Hillary was working the front desk at this hotel, right?
Mm-hmm. Dealing with all the headaches, I bet.
All the usual customer service stuff.
Yeah, you gotta have some serious patience for that job, especially with those difficult guests.
Totally. You never know what you're going to get. So one night, these two guys check in.
Okay.
One of them's super charming. The other guy, totally silent.
Hmm.
But Hillary didn't really think much of it at the time, just another check-in.
Easy to just brush it off, especially if
No,
someone's
no.
putting on that friendly face.
Yeah, exactly. But then, the next morning, things started to get weird.
Oh, no.
The charming guest, his name was Paul Cunningham, he kept coming back to the front desk,
Uh-oh.
chatting her up. But it was getting a little too friendly for comfort.
Oh, I don't like where this is going.
Yeah. And then he asked her bra size.
Whoa, hold on. That's not okay. Major boundary crossed right there. A big red flag.
Huge red flag.
Mm-hmm.
Hillary just kind of laughed it off. But later that day, he came back with a bikini from Victoria's Secret.
Okay, that's definitely not appropriate. Gifting lingerie to someone you barely know.
Yeah.
No, just no.
And then he extended his stay for another night.
Oh my gosh.
And the next morning, he asked her if she tried on the bikini yet.
The persistence, like he's totally ignoring her discomfort. Those are not good signs.
Seriously. So Hillary, she manages to, deflect.
Mm.
But later that day, he corners her again. And this time, he pulls makeup out of his boxers.
Hold on, wait. What? Out of his boxers?
Yeah, he said he thought she'd like them.
Okay, that's just creepy. And where did he even get the makeup? Why is it in his underwear?
It's all kinds of messed up, right?
Yeah.
Like the makeup wasn't even in any packaging, didn't look new. It's super unsettling. So she took the makeup just to get him to leave her alone.
Mm.
And guess what? He extends his stay again.
This guy.
I know, right?
That feeling of being trapped, not knowing how to get out of a situation that's getting worse and worse.
And then on our next shift, things get really crazy. A detective comes up to the front desk, shows her a badge and a mugshot.
And it's Paul Cunningham.
Bingo.
Yeah.
But it gets worse. The detective scrolls up on his phone, and there it is, a wanted for murder notice.
Oh, wow, what a twist. From creepy guest to fugitive on the run?
I know, right? So the detective asks Hillary what room he's in, and all of a sudden the lobby is full of plainclothes officers.
A real-life crime drama. That must have been surreal for her.
Totally. They decide to set up a sting operation right there in the lobby.
Wow.
Hillary's supposed to call the guy down to the front desk, using his credit card as an excuse. But just as she's about to make the call, the phone rings. And it's him.
No way! What are the chances? That's crazy.
I know, talk about suspense.
Yeah.
So we asked about the business center, comes downstairs, and just moments later, officers are swarming him, guns drawn.
Wow, that must have been terrifying to witness.
It was intense. The detective is yelling, "Don't move or I'll shoot." Hillary's pressed up against the wall, just watching everything unfold.
Can you imagine what's going through her mind at that moment?
I know. So much shock. Fear. The realization that she'd been interacting with this dangerous criminal.
It's mind-blowing.
So they take him into custody. No problems there. And Hillary learns his real name is Angelo Dewing. He was wanted for a group assault that ended up killing a 24-year-old.
Oh, my goodness.
And later, the police search his room and find heroin, a box cutter, a hunting knife, and 2 guns.
Oh, my gosh. It's chilling to think what might have happened if they hadn't caught him.
I know, right? It's scary to think about. And afterwards, Hillary felt guilty about being part of the sting operation.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like she betrayed him or something.
I can see that, being polite and accommodating is so ingrained in us. It's hard to shake that even when we're in danger. But she helped catch a dangerous guy. That's huge.
Exactly. And thankfully, she came to see it that way too. Like, his feelings didn't matter. Hers did.
It's a powerful realization, putting your own safety first and trusting those instincts.
Absolutely. Okay, ready to hop across the pond for our next story. This one's in Ireland.
Ooh, Ireland. I'm ready for a change of scenery.
So this one involves a charming killer, a vintage toy car, and dot cake.
Hold on, cake. A charming killer and cake. This I gotta hear.
So our storyteller, Sage, she starts by mentioning the morbid episode about the murder of Sophie Toscan du Plantier. Her boyfriend, we'll call him F, grew up in West Cork, same area where the murder happened. And when Sage told him about the episode, he was like, "Oh yeah, I know that guy."
Wait, he knew Ian Bailey?
Yeah.
The prime suspect?
Yeah. And not just knew him.
Oh.
He had multiple encounters with him.
Wow.
Throughout his childhood.
Wow.
So their first encounter was at a market. F was only 7 years old. Bailey was selling like wooden trays and bowls and stuff.
Okay.
And he sold F a small vintage toy car.
Wow, it's crazy how these seemingly normal encounters can become so sinister in hindsight. Like the thought of this kid playing with a toy handled by a potential murderer.
I know, it's unsettling. So F had other run-ins with Bailey at markets over the years. And he remembers teachers and parents would warn the kids not to talk to him. But no one ever explained why.
Interesting.
He just seemed like a regular old guy, albeit one who sold a surprisingly good cake.
Okay, that's a little unsettling. That mix of the ordinary and the sinister. It makes you wonder what's really lurking beneath the surface.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And F described Bailey as friendly and charismatic,
Oh.
but also said he could be terrifying to young women. Like, he'd flirt with them, and then if they rejected him, he'd fly into a rage.
That unpredictable nature, those sudden mood swings, that's something you see a lot in these stories. It's unnerving.
Yeah, like a switch just flips.
Yeah.
And F also mentioned this bridge where Bailey would often be spotted.
Yeah.
Just standing there watching people.
Okay, that's pretty creepy. That image of him just standing there observing.
Yeah. One of F's friends even waved to him from the bridge one time, and Bailey just stared at her with this cold expression before forcing a smile and waving back.
Ugh, that sends chills down my spine, like something out of a horror movie.
Right. So F hasn't seen Bailey since he was 15, but he still remembers that unsettling feeling of being around him. He even went to the house where Sophie Toscan du Plantier was murdered and said it had a heavy, morbid presence.
It's like the tragedy itself soaked into the place,
Right.
leaving this dark energy behind. Those locations where horrible things have happened can hold on to that, like a stain that won't go away.
Yeah, I totally get that. So Sage believes her boyfriend is just followed by, like, all things dark and morbid.
Oh, interesting.
And she's promised to share more of his stories in the future.
Well, I can't wait to hear them. There's something so captivating about these firsthand accounts, these glimpses into the lives of people who've brushed up against darkness. It's both fascinating and disturbing at the same time.
Yeah, it really makes you wonder, like, are some people just magnets for these dark experiences?
Right. Or is it that they're just like more aware of the darkness that's already all around us? Like maybe we all have these encounters, but some of us just don't even notice.
It's a question without an easy answer for sure. But these stories definitely make you think about how important it is to be aware, to trust those gut feelings.
Absolutely. And sometimes those gut feelings tell us to run, even if it means being a little rude. Sometimes it's better to be rude than sorry.
You got that right. And speaking of running, our last story for today takes us back to the world of tattoos.
Oh, tattoos.
This one comes from Courtney, back in the summer of 2004 in Defiance, Ohio.
Okay, back to Ohio. Bad tattoos and murderers. There's got to be a connection there, right?
Maybe there is, maybe there is. We'll have to do a whole deep dive on that sometime.
I'm in.
But for now, let's hear Courtney's story. She was a recent high school grad, and she was like desperate for her first tattoo, like a lot of 18-year-olds.
Yeah, a rite of passage for some, a big regret for others.
Yeah, for sure. So Courtney goes into this tattoo shop in town, no research, no reviews, just walks right in. The artist tells her to come back at a certain time, so she brings her friend for support.
Yeah, I get that. Getting a tattoo can be scary, especially the first one.
Absolutely. And her friend's mom even tried to talk her out of it, but she was determined.
Oh, wow.
So they go back to the shop, and the artist gets to work. Can you guess what she got?
Early 2000s. A butterfly on her lower back.
You got it. A classic tramp stamp.
A true sign of the times.
But the artist, not a nice guy.
Yeah.
Yelled at her for flinching. Even threatened to, like, stop in the middle of it.
Some people, I swear, it's amazing how they end up in customer service.
I know, right? But he finished the tattoo, and Courtney was the proud owner of a brand new tramp stamp. 6 months later, her friend calls and tells her to check the front page of the Toledo Blade.
Oh, boy. Here we go. This is where it gets bad, isn't it?
Yeah. There he was, the tattoo artist, wanted for murder.
Oh, my gosh. I guess that's one way to make you regret a tattoo.
Pretty wild.
Yeah.
So the artist and his girlfriend had lured some guy to a motel,
Okay.
robbed him, and then shot him dead. Then they fled to Kentucky, and the artist ended up killing his girlfriend, too.
Oh, wow. This guy was bad news.
Yeah. So he confessed to both murders and is now serving a life sentence.
Wow.
Courtney found the whole thing pretty wild.
I bet.
But she also admits it's a pretty good party story.
Well, yeah, I guess there's a certain dark humor to it, but it's hard to ignore the unsettling reality of it all,
Yeah. Like a constant reminder that danger can be lurking anywhere. So what do we learn from all these stories? For me, it's a reminder that our everyday lives can be so close to something extraordinary, something terrifying.
It's a very thin line. And I think it's a reminder to really pay attention, to trust your gut, and to remember that evil can hide in plain sight, even in the most ordinary places.
And we're not alone in these experiences. So many people have heard these stories. And I bet a lot of people listening have had similar encounters. Maybe they haven't shared them yet, but...
Yeah, it creates a sense of community, sharing these stories, like acknowledging that darkness can touch any of us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that we can find strength in sharing these experiences and in knowing that other people have been through similar things. So if you have a story about that time you met a murderer or had a brush with someone who turned out to be infamous, we want to hear it. Share it with us and become a part of this ongoing conversation.
Until next time, stay curious, stay safe, and trust your instincts.